Hey, what's going on? How you doing? Oh, that's okay. Okay. It could run a little long, but I'll be here. I got no place to go. So, okay, great. Okay, let's do it. Yeah. All right. Good evening, everyone. I think I might be hearing some jingle bells, so listen carefully. Handing out the awards. Somebody's going to let me know which.
The next one is for Mike and Annette Swars. The next one's for Beverly Copland. Oh, I'm sorry. next one's for Beverly Coplin. The next one's for Joe and Pam Semishi.
No picture.
Stand, did you get a stand?
The sharp object.
A stand?
Denise, do you have a stand? Thank you. I'm trying to wrap this up.
Oh. The next one's for Tim and Janice Mabey. So these next awards are for the multiple year contest winners, Sean and Kristen Donnelly. Congratulations.
There you go.
Careful, buddy.
There you go. American Ice Man. We'll all switch in for a picture.
The next one's for Jim and Lisa Teague. The next one is Chris and Marie Beck-Stagger.
One short. There you go. I don't want to feel left out there, man. All right, here we go. All right.
The next one's for Tom and Bonnie Shuchek.
A lot to carry. There you go. All right, here we go. They should have started in October.
The next one's for Israel and Dolly Mendoza. The next one's for Brad and Lisa Weiss. The next one's for Mark and Janet Sutherland. next one's for Byron and Lisa Wise. The next one's for Jeff and Brenda Alexander. And Sydney, sorry.
Is your dog allergic to candy cane? Very good.
The next one, Sandy McCaleb. Sandy McCaleb. The next one's for Chris and Kelly Aiken. The next one's for George Hannum and Ginny Macco. The next one's for Brian and Sharon Spencer. The last one's for Cable and Heather Davis.
Aw, Merry Christmas, you guys. Here you go. I'm gonna give you most of the work, right? Who did most of the work? Did you? You were the planner, you guys worked it out? Great. All right.
Congratulations.
Merry Christmas, you guys. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Santa.
All right, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you, Santa. We're going to take about a 2-minute break to allow people who are here just for the tree lighting or the lighting, Christmas lighting, to filter out if they don't choose to stay. And so if you want to take a moment to collect your things and your children, and we'll give you a minute to do that. Nobody left. Maybe you good? Okay. So we're back, and we're going to call to order the Rancho Murieta Association Board of Directors meeting for December 18th, 2018. Roll call, please. Here.
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 Okay, the first item on our agenda is public comments. The public shall have the opportunity to directly address the board on any items of interest. Public comments on items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the board are welcome, subject to reasonable time limitations for each speaker. If you wish to address the board at this time, please state your name and lot number and reserve your comments to no more than 3 minutes so that others may be allowed to speak. No action will be taken. Each item of business will be introduced by the president. Public comment for that item will be open. The public will have the opportunity to speak on that item. Public comment for that item will then be closed, and no additional public comment will be allowed. At that time, the board will discuss the item and then take action. As I understand, there are a couple of people who signed up, thank you, for public comments. So Danny Carrillo, would you like to come up?
Well, Danny is coming to the podium, and this is no reflection on Danny whatsoever. It's just a general comment I'm going to make for the whole audience. Please respect those who are talking and the board here, and only comment if you're at the podium, please. And we can't understand everybody when they try and talk or try and tell us something. So please conduct yourself in an appropriate manner as an audience. Thank you.
Okay. Danny, go ahead.
Yes, my name's Danny Carrillo. First of all, I'd like to thank each and every one of you that took the opportunity to vote for me. I greatly appreciate it. Also, in fulfilling my campaign promise to the people of Rancho Murieta and still staying actively involved in the community, I vowed to come to every board meeting offered here. And I've also offered my time to belong to one of the committees. Now we get on to the issue that I had with one of the board members. I'm glad to say, for my part and their part, that I have been thoroughly satisfied with their comments to me, and I thank them for that, and I'm ready to move on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Danny. I believe, oh, yeah, okay. I believe we have another person who signed up, Randy Jenko.
Randy Jenko, lot 3006. I read where the board was discussing the issue of fees for Little League, and I would like to address it and share with you what I know about it. I got involved with Little League about 20 years ago. My oldest son turned 7 or 8. Did some coaching, managed a few teams, managed a few good teams, managed some teams that weren't so great. Spent 3 years as the president, and then immediately after that, got on the board here for the RMA for 6 years. When I was involved in Little League, we had several projects that Little League was involved in. During my time, we built the outfield fence at the Major League field. We built the batting cage that you see out there. We built all 6 dugouts along with the backstop fence improvements that we needed to do for those dugouts. We built the softball field. We built the lights at the major field with the help from Summerfest. We bought 3 scoreboards. You see one in each field now. And we made numerous improvements to the snack bar and that building facility. when I got on the board, occasionally this question would come up about how come we don't charge fees to the Little League. Well, that's why. Little League spent so much money on improvements at Stonehouse Fields that it would have been unfair to charge them in addition to all of the improvements that RMA got made to their properties. So I was going through some old stuff. Here's a file I have on us building the softball field. I did the drawings. I was the engineer of record because we had to turn in a grading plan to the county. We did a schedule. The reason why we were able to do these things is because we had a lot of resources. We had a lot of resources on our Little League board. We had the Burkharts from Sheldon who owned Bradley Construction. We had the Whitings who lived over on the other side of Stonehouse that were on the board, very active in Little League. We had the Baileys who owned their trenchless contracting company. We had Barsom who did air conditioning. We had Mike Martell had two sons in Little League at that time, and he had the resources of Summerfest behind them. And just quickly, this job, the job to build the softball field was supposed to start in November and finish in February. We ran into some rain. We ran into some technical problems. We ran into getting caught working on a Saturday, and .com tattled on us. But as you look through the activities to do that, salvage sprinkler heads, remove trees, remove sod, salvage stockpile topsoil was Burkhead. RMA moved a picnic table out of our way. We imported material from the other side of Stonehouse and graded it. That was Burkhart that did that. RMA poured a slab to move the timber cover. I moved the timber cover. Burkhart then did some more drainage, French drains, drain inlets. Rod helped us out with the irrigation in the outfield. Burkhart brought back the topsoil. We excavated for the dugouts. Whiting Concrete did the dugout footings. As I recall, Whiting contributed somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 worth of concrete just on this one project. The dugout masonry was done by Bailey. The dugout roof was done by Barsom. The benches were provided by RMA. The chain link fence I took care of, and I just happened to have the invoice to my company from the fence company, and it was $15,000 to give you some kind of an idea of the scale of this.
We're up against a little bit of a time limit, Randy.
Sure.
We do have the general managers reporting out on this if you want to continue a little bit later in the agenda.
You know, that's pretty much all
Okay.
I wanted to say, except to finish up that if you totaled up what we contributed at the time, it had to be well over $200,000. If you had drawn plans and contracted out that work, it probably would have been double that. I'm no math genius, but I'm pretty sure that with the amount of money that was spent out there and what RMA got out of it, that you could waive Little League's fees for another 50 or 60 years and still break even. So that's the point. That's the only point that I wanted to make.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Hi, Tom Mazinos, Lot 501. I'd just like to pick up on the conversation from earlier that I felt was not completed. The board was asked several times, without any real answer given, why you felt a change in the Parks and Recs committee was necessary, or how that was going to help and improve that. I feel like the question was sidestepped. I don't feel like it was acknowledged. I'd like to hear a good answer.
Okay, we're going to address that. We've adjourned that until the end of the meeting, so we'll address that topic at that point.
Okay, well, earlier you were giving answers to it, but they weren't real answers. So can you not give real answers right now? I mean, you found the time earlier. You could have given legitimate answers earlier, and you spent your time dodging the question.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead. That's on our agenda to address it at the end.
Okay. That seems to be why a lot of people are here tonight. I mean, I'm sure you recognize that. Can you tell me why we can't continue where we left off with that? And if that's the case, would there be a chance for public comment on it later?
Actually, we adjourned that organizational meeting, and we'll reconvene that meeting after the regular board meeting. And so we're doing public comments for the regular board meeting now, and so we'll go through that agenda, and then we'll reconvene the organizational meeting. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry? Well, again, you sidestepped the question I asked. Would there be able to be comment on that later?
Yeah, we can address the organizational issue at that point.
So yes, there can be
Sure.
public comment on it later? Okay.
Any other public comments?
Billy Hayes, once again, lot 1900. Not really directed towards any of you. I find it ironic. Randy Janko, I believe that was your name. I hope I didn't do that disservice by announcing you. I find it ironic that Mr. Janko is defending Little League tonight when he hasn't had to defend that before, but that's neither here nor there. RMA, correct me if I'm wrong, he did say helped with over $200,000 worth of donations. I believe RMA is funded by homeowners, I think. Second of all, Little League is not made up of anything but volunteers, and volunteers are exactly who are in this room, so that's who we have. So that $200,000 was homeowners and volunteers, all people sitting in this room. So Mr. Janko, I appreciate you bringing that up. I find it ironic that you are doing that right now, being that we're talking about field usage. But yeah, those are my comments, just food for thought.
Any further public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered routine and will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion of the items unless the director requests a specific item be removed.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion. Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the consent calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Approval of the minutes. We've got two sets of minutes. Let's start with the minutes from November 13th. The chair seeks a motion on the approval of minutes from November 13th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for November 13th.
I'll second them.
Okay, motion and second. Further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the minutes from November 13th, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes 7-0. Second set of minutes is from the minutes of the budget workshop from November 8th, 2018. The chair seeks a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the budget workshop on November 8th, 2018.
I'll second it.
Okay, further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the minutes from the budget workshop, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. The next item is the President's report, and we were in executive session for approximately an hour and negotiated a contract and heard an appeal Those are the two things that took up an hour. So that concludes my report. General Manager.
Okay, the first item I have is the field use contracts. Last month, the board asked that I come back with the fees that are being paid by soccer, lacrosse, and Little League. In 2016, the soccer league paid $3,200, 2017, $3,700, 2018, $3,800. This is for 19 weeks of contract for all fields, except for the baseball field number 1. Lacrosse pays, in 2016, they paid $600, 2017, $600, 2018, $650, and that's for 14 weeks, and that's for one field. Cosumnes River Little League, they have fields contracted for 24 weeks, and it's for the 4 baseball fields, the 3 at Stonehouse, and then the 1 at Riverview. And their fees for the last 3 years have been 0. And so I don't know if I can. Also, a question was asked whether or not Summerfest and Kiwanis for their Easter celebration, if they are paying a facility use fee, and the answer to that is no. Any questions?
I have a question, Greg. With the soccer team fees, 2016 was $3,200, then it went up by $500 in 2017, but then only $100 in 2018. I just wondered how you made those decisions to increase.
I'd have to go back and look at the actual contracts. I'm not sure if the length of time changed or if they requested more fields. I'd have to look at that.
Okay, that's no problem. But
Yeah,
there's no formula or anything like that that increases it?
No.
No, okay, all right.
I do have a question for you. I pulled up the Stonehouse policy rules. Would there be any way to use what you have there for guidelines to address
The challenge that we get into is that we try to set a fee in the contract mid-year, and then when we get into actual season, a lot of times because of rain, you lose hours or you lose field use time, and so some years you might lose 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of use time. Lacrosse especially is very, very susceptible to that. And other years, like this year was a pretty good year. It didn't really get rainy or muddy until the last 2 or 3 weeks of the contract. And so, yeah, I guess you could do a per hour, per field fee, and then audit it every week to see how much time was available, and then give a refund at the end.
And that's what I was going to suggest.
Yeah. You could do that, yes.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So I have a comment. I reviewed our bylaws in regards to this issue, and our bylaws are pretty clear. They do state that the association has the right to assign the fee for field usage or for facility usage. However, and it's very clear that it states that in the bylaws that the fee must be equitable.
So I guess the question is, what's equitable?
Yeah, it's a very subjective term.
I'll say it. How can 0 be equitable when someone else is paying $3,200 or
Well,
$3,800?
I think you just heard that they put in approximately $200,000, and that wasn't. And I think the gentleman that spoke to Randy's statement, I think those gentlemen put in money out of their own pocket and materials out of their own pocket, so that wasn't $200,000. Yeah, Randy, are you still here? Yeah, I mean, RMA did a little of the demo work for him. I think poured some of the slabs up for him, but I think they. RMA is doing the work that our dues doing the work then, so we've all contributed. Yes, but they did a huge part out of their own pocket. If I'm.
Okay, we need to keep a little bit of order. Randy, would you like to address that?
Sure. When I say we spent in excess of $200,000, I'm saying Little League spent in excess of $200,000. Little League out of its dues, Little League out of its sponsor fees, and Little League by board members volunteering. So RMA did not pour that concrete. Whiting Concrete poured that concrete. And I got it donated from a ready-mix supplier. So when I say that we spent over $200,000, that's beyond what Rod contributed in how we did it in conjunction.
My only, Randy, if I just have one question for you. Being a businessman, I know that if you're going to be donating time and material, you should be able to write that off on taxes. Am I correct on that? Because Little League is a nonprofit organization. If I'm wrong, please correct me.
I probably spent $50,000 of my company's money, and it never occurred to me to write it off. I just did it.
Okay, but, I mean, and I'm not a tax man, take my word for it.
So let's say you could write off a quarter of it, and we spent $250,000. So we wrote off $50,000, and we still spent $200,000 of our own money.
Greg, the subject has come up, thank you, Randy. The subject has come up several times now about the equity code and how some of these fees are established. Would it be wise at this point to establish a little ad hoc group of some kind to work on fees and their distribution and equity?
Well, I think we have the starting of that next month. We're going to meet with the Little League over their contract with them, and at that time the board can ask them questions and determine what they think is fair and equitable.
Let me update real quick, Larry, for those who are interested. So what we've heard from the public over the last couple of months has raised our antenna about, our contracts with the groups for field use. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start reviewing those contracts and meeting with the groups and seeing if we need to renegotiate those or look at those. So we want to hear from those groups and we want to assess where those contracts are. When was the last time we looked at those contracts?
I mean, on the staff level, we look at them every year, but the board, the board's probably had the discussion about Little League probably every other year, I think, it's come up. And so we've had that dialogue quite a few times on the Little League contract.
Okay, but we want to look at soccer, we want to look at lacrosse, we want to look at private groups and do the whole thing. So
it sounds like it would be valuable to RMA and especially those people who want to use the facilities to establish a rate ruling of how much each field should cost and by hour and what the responsibilities are and that sort of thing. It just seems to me like we need to clean this up a little bit.
I agree with you, Alex and Larry, because I did a little, just looking at the negotiations that are going on right now with the Bulldogs, where I don't know where it stands, if it's finalized or not, but we were in negotiations that it was going to be $25 an hour, and I just did some rough math with the numbers that was provided to me by Greg. Soccer, you convert everything to an hourly rate, and I might be off by a couple pennies here and there. $5 an hour, that's what we're charging soccer for hourly rate. Lacrosse, $1.16 an hour. Little League is nothing, and then you're asking the Bulldogs to do 25. So I also read it in the, I spent a lot of time reading the bylaws, the CC&Rs, and then into the Davis-Sterling Act the last 3-4 days. And yeah, we do need to make sure that all our fees are fair and equitable to everyone in the community.
Casino night.
Okay. Casino night is scheduled for February 23rd.
Can I interject real quick? I'm sorry, I don't mean to move on. I know, and forgive me if this is the wrong place to bring this up, but one of the issues at hand for the Bulldogs, and I think it would be remiss of the board if we didn't address this issue, has been that they have been on hold as far as their practices go, and ultimately we're hindering the kids who are in our community. So board willing to, in the interim until these fees are straightened out, if the fields are open, are they allowed to practice on the fields, or can we address that issue, so at least in the interim till we can get the fee structure settled out?
Well, we don't have a board action for that today, so we're not able to do that. Well, so we do have to follow our protocols and our processes. We can't just step over those. And so the motion passed last month, was it? Said that we needed to do some review and discussion, I believe was the language. So we're doing that. We're in the holiday season. It's hard to get people together. So we're trying to do that. We're working hard. My understanding is that the Bulldogs have been using the fields in the past. So correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't know. We're working on getting a field use together. It's going to just take probably another month to do that. By the time we do that, so we want to do. We have a very valuable resource, and we want to make sure we do our due diligence and do this right. And so it's just going to take a little bit of time.
And if I can just briefly, about 2 weeks ago, the weekend I think of December the 6th, soccer used the lacrosse field, and it was wet, and they tore it up considerably. And as a result, we had to meet with them, and they've agreed to pay for all the damages that they caused to that field by using it when it shouldn't have been used. And so I think that's the importance of trying to have contracts and to know who's on your field and who's using the field. If that would have just been a random group up there destroying the field, then the members would have been out the money for that repair. But since we do have an organization and a contract with them, they're making good on the damage that they did. They're actually offering to put up lacrosse on different fields, so they're not out using those same fields until they get into better shape. Fortunately, over the last week and a half, it's been fairly dry until this weekend. We're able to do some work on the field. It's actually getting to be pretty good shape again. So I think lacrosse will be able to use it in January. But that's just kind of an example of why we do need to know who's on the field and have somebody that's responsible for those actions.
And so we have to notice the public properly if we're going to have a board action, and so we don't have that on our agenda. So we need to honor that.
Greg, what if the Bulldogs came to you and said, we've noticed that X field isn't reserved during this time, would you allow them to use the field?
I'm going to tell them that they need to have a contract. And until you guys tell me differently.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Casino night?
Casino night is scheduled for February 23rd, 2019. As of December 10th, 2018, and Stephanie, let me know if my numbers are off now. 75 tickets have been sold, and there's 4 sponsors have committed. The total revenue received is about $5,705. And the cost for one of the participants for the event is approximately $6,800. And so you're getting real close to that break even on the event, and you've still got a long way to go. So, I mean, it looks like your numbers are looking pretty good. Do you want to add anything? Or?
We have a lot of pending sponsorships and prizes that are pending. We have between 80 to 90 requests out that are pending for prizes and sponsorships. We have other entities who have committed to sponsor the event, but with holidays and whatnot, I think people are waiting. So I appreciate everybody's support for the event. I think it's going to be a very fun event. And if you haven't bought tickets, we have them tonight available.
Any other questions on that?
Congratulations on your success.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the next. The next item is a Greenfield lease reassignment. Greenfield lease reassignment thing. So, okay, I think I got it right. Okay, I'm thinking baseball again. So, Greenfield has a lease on our system, And recently they came to us and said that they've got a company that wants to take that lease over from them. And so that involves a reassignment of the lease. And so the board has met with the new vendor who's proposing to take over that lease. The name of the company is Barnett. The board interviewed, reviewed the financials for Barnett, and at this time we're looking for a recommendation to approve the assignment agreement of the infrastructure lease agreement from Greenfield Rancho Murieta LLC to Barnett Land Administration.
Just, we've got a briefing in the closed session, and just a little additional information for you. At this point, the new owner anticipates no significant changes in the service that you're receiving, but hopes to improve things like the video service for the TV and the telephone service that's offered.
As well as customers,
In the near future.
yeah, as well as customer support too.
Yeah, right. So they're all positive improvements.
And so it looks like they hope to close the deal by the end of this month. The next 30 to 60 days, they'll stay with Greenfield as far as their customer support. Then they'll transition over from that support to their own support system. So.
Okay, so we need a motion. Looking for a motion.
Make
Oh,
a
go ahead.
Go ahead, Joanne.
I'll make a motion to approve the assignment agreement of the infrastructure lease agreement from Greenfield Rancho Murieta LLC to Barnett Land Administration.
I'll second it.
Okay. Good. Any further discussion?
Yes. When we had until it's official, the new owner in the office, we gave him numerous questions. I was quite impressed with every answer that he got. He was very much on top of video service. What's important to me, he's good on customer support. And he's going to give us, I honestly believe, a higher level of service than what we've had in the past with Greenfield. So he's on top of his game. And I'm very impressed with him. I'm looking forward to, at least that's how I'm going to vote, I'm looking forward to someone else taking over our services here.
Any further discussion?
Well, I would say that I was wondering if we have a review period of any sort linked in this contract. Because unlike you, I just want to make sure we get a chance to review it as it goes down, like in a 6-month period or something like that. So that, if there are concerns or whatever, we have a chance to talk about this.
It's like a marriage.
I think on any contract, especially long-term contracts that, like we had with Greenfield and this one, you kind of take your issues on one-on-one basis. If you're finding an issue that you're having with the contract, you discuss that with them directly and hopefully resolve it. But I don't think we have anything specific where it says, oh gee, we get to do an evaluation.
Well, we can't turn back, can we?
No. I mean, in the meeting that Alex and I had with him, he did volunteer to come to any and all board meetings if we would like to have him here,
Okay.
or any and all communications committee meetings. He's got 2 other HOAs that he's operating systems in. He does attend their meetings now, and so he says if we want him at every meeting, he'll be here for every meeting. So.
Sure, we don't need that, but that's good to know. All right.
Okay.
That's
Any
my only question.
further discussion? Okay. Then all in favor of approving the assignment agreement of the infrastructure lease agreement from Greenfield Rancho Murieta LLC to Barnett Land Administration, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, thank you. GM, that's it? Okay, on to item 9, committee activities, starting with finance.
The Finance Committee did not meet in December.
Nice. Architectural Review Committee.
week, Mark? Oh, okay, all right. Anything else? That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Communications Committee.
The Communications Committee didn't meet, but we are in the middle of doing the website testing as well as the other board members. So I don't know if any of the board members have not been able to get into the website. If for some reason you haven't, please send me an email and we'll try to get you so you can log into it, because I think we're getting fairly close to going live. I see some heads nodding over there. So did you have anything to add, Colleen, on it or no? I don't know exactly when we're going to go live, but we have tested a lot of the different things, and want to thank Barbara Sachs for the nice picture of the country club that's a little prominent on our website.
I was wondering about that. That's like one of the first things that pops up when it comes up.
Yeah, it's real nice.
I don't know.
Well, we can only have so many options of pictures.
Yeah.
So on our homepage, I think there's about 8 that scroll through. But then when you go to the other menu, one menu picture shares 3, and there's one drop-down menu that shares 3, and those are the only picture options we have. We can change the ones in the front as we get more that come into the community that scroll.
Did you have any people reply to the newsletter call for photos? That was supposed to come into Greg, or who was it supposed to come into? But we put it in the newsletter and asked people to submit their favorite photos. And I don't know whose email address we put in there. It might have been Darlene's. Yeah, I think it was.
Well, one of the good things too, once the website is, live, individual residents can put in their own galleries, especially if you want to share with other, friends or relatives or whatever, and you can put your pictures in there. There's going to be little groups, that you can set members for. And our calendar should post, if you select that option, emails or text for calendar events that are coming up. And those are all individual options that you can set. So I think it has a lot more features than our current website, plus its app. You can put it on your phone. It's real easy. We've had several members test it that way. And I think it'll be an improvement, as a communication tool for the community. So I'm really excited about it launching. I think
Look forward to it.
I'm hoping that we get the smooth transition for the email addresses to make sure we include everybody we currently have and anything else. And that's my whole report.
Awesome, thank you. Moving on, Compliance Grievance Safety Committee.
Compliance, we met on Tuesday, December 4th. We heard some appeals, and we reviewed a month's worth of violations. But probably one of the biggest items or concerns that we discussed as a committee was holiday and home security. And first off, and we discussed as a committee, and I've heard it from the chief, and he gave us input also, just a couple hints that I wanted to share from the committee to you. And first off, and that is lights. Everyone, turn on your porch lights, outdoor lighting, anything to keep anyone who might be in the shadows, keep them visible. Cameras, another person said, and it's coming from CSD too, that they have a lot of good systems now for cameras if you're concerned about security, and you can install it. I know we've got some friends who have the Ring doorbell, and it works great. You can have apps with your phones, and it's just one more tool that you can use. And then finally after that, probably the most important thing is just take the time to lock up your home. I found it very disturbing that we had, from what I hear, should I say, 3 alleged break-ins. I did look at the door of one of them, and it's very discerning to me. I was pretty upset about it.
That was my door, by the way.
Not good. I mean,
It was during the day, by the way.
I know.
During the daylight.
And you probably live across from Jackie Villa?
I sure do.
Okay.
There's a possibility I was home, actually, pretty Sean's possibility.
Yeah. And Jackie called me on that.
Yeah.
And it was, for me to see what it was and for someone to do it in broad daylight, it's not good. And just like within the city of Elk Grove, they have limited manpower. We have, and CSD, they do a fantastic job trying to be everywhere that they can be. But that's where we have to look out for our neighbors and just increase the awareness. So it's important, keep your doors locked. If you want to take the step to get an alarm, do what you ever have to do to make yourself safe. And we also had another committee member who brought in and says, for cameras, and this is something that everyone's seen in Home Depot. It's kind of old system. Here's another one that you can put outside, and I have not done it myself. My neighbor has one installed. You can walk up to his house from the front, the back, the sides. He's got cameras everywhere. So if you're concerned about your security, where you want a little bit more comfort, take the action. The chief will, I've heard his lecture both at Kiwanis, one-on-one. He's given me advice. I just want to pass it on just one more time, because it's important to me that we have a safe community here. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Perfect segue. We're moving on to the Joint Security Committee, which will be meeting here in the new year soon to address some of these issues. And Joanne Brandt has requested to join the resident advisory group that we're forming. That's going to advise RMA on some of these items, open to residents, by the way. And so it's important, since we approved the other two board members last month, that we do the same for Joanne. Just want to point out, though, that this will prevent any of the rest of us from sitting on that committee for quorum purposes. So just so you know, but I think Joanne is a great fit over there. So we do need an approval or a motion and a vote on that.
Before we do that, I had a couple of questions about
Please.
that. I wasn't real clear what our intent really was on forming this. Well, I know why we're forming it, but on how it was formed.
Plus the name, plus the resident advisory group was not what the name was when we first.
What did we name it? Do you remember?
Emergency preparedness.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was
Okay.
just the emergency preparedness. I mean, to me, this was something different, the resident advisory committee.
We are talking about the same thing. We put this in here because of the terminology.
We're looking at whatever group was going to support the Joint Security Committee. And I think the question that Alex and I were,
I thought I said it again.
it was whatever group we were forming to support the Joint Security Committee.
It was added to the Joint Security?
It was an advisory group to the Joint Security Committee, right.
But it was going to focus on emergency preparedness.
And that's what Alex and I had been talking about for the last month. We were really we wanted the board to dialogue a little bit on exactly what we were looking for from that advisory group, if they were just going to be looking at evacuation plans, or if they were going to be a full-time,
Right.
year-round for the next 10 years, or what their purpose was.
The goal when we talked about it at the meeting, and that Betty Ferraro and Rob Schultz were involved in, was to look at a framework for an emergency preparedness plan that also involved an evacuation plan for the community. And that would take, collecting a lot of information, because CSD has an emergency preparedness plan, they have evacuation plans, the county has things, the sheriff's department, things like that. So a lot of the work of that committee will be to pull what's already out there, and then to develop a framework for our community with a draft recommendation of some sort. There would be a comprehensive emergency preparedness plan that would involve also an evacuation plan for various different emergencies. And that was our goal when the three of us looked at that and we said we'd like to have that committee appointed. And then Jim said he'd like to be on it, and then later on Joanne did. And so that was my understanding, that tonight we were going to add Joanne to that particular committee. Now, if the board wants to design that committee differently, then this is the time to let me know.
But the way I remember our discussion was that this committee, this ad hoc committee to the Joint Security Committee would evolve after that task, or maybe even during that task, it would evolve into other subjects. Not just that one, but maybe compliance issues or security systems, traffic violations, various other things that this Joint Security Committee is eventually going to advise the board, both CSD and RMA, on what the recommendations are. So we were going to have a citizens advisory group that may have different subjects, and that advisory group may evolve with different members as time goes on.
Would that not be duplicating some of our present committees that have citizens volunteering on those committees to advise the board? I mean, I just think that's, maybe eventually we could look at that down the road, but right now, I think it's too big of a task to think they're going to be doing all that kind of stuff too.
I think there's a lot of issues we need to discuss, such as speed trailers and speed bumps, and do we want outside, do we want to contract with the sheriff's department to allow outside patrol in here? I think there's an awful lot of issues that are associated with security that we need to address, and the public has asked us to address, and come up with decisions. And we don't have those people, we don't have those committees in place now to do that.
And this particular committee, as I understood it, was similar to what Cheryl had stated, plus the additional piece that I know Betty's really interested in is public information. What kind of things do you take? What do you need to have in a preparedness pack? That kind of information out to the public. And like you said, gathering up the different information of the different evacuation plans out there and kind of
I
correlating them.
I think the kind of things you're talking about, Larry, could easily be a separate committee. It could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of things you just brought up, Larry.
We have our hands full just working on the emergency preparedness.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting that you should tackle those things. I was just
Good.
not wanting to limit that ad hoc public group
Yeah, no.
with
That'd be fine.
just your task, but
Yeah.
maybe a different group or expanding beyond that.
But Larry, with a lot of what you're saying right now, anything to deal with compliance, when you're talking about speed humps, we've discussed that in the compliance committee, and then we brought it to the board. Speed trailers, we've discussed that in the compliance committee, brought it to the board. And I see what Cheryl's saying. I mean, I also know, I've looked in the CCRs, when we form a committee, we also have to go through a charter process. And we need to identify what the goal is of the community, how many members are going to be on the committee, goals and objectives. And if you're saying we need multiple committees, the other part of this charter process is how long is the committee actually going to be in place? Is it going to be for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years? I mean, at this point, you could actually have the first committee, the emergency evacuation, whatever title we want to give it, that committee, their lifespan could be 1 year. We could renew it after that. After they complete their task, then we can form a new committee and move on from there.
Okay, and we did,
I'd like to be done with it in a year.
Yes.
and we did call this an advisory group, I think for a reason last month, is because this committees report to the board.
Yes.
And this advisory group is reporting to the Joint Security Committee, I thought.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we're not forming a committee, we're forming an advisory group because they will
Okay.
not be reporting directly to the board.
Okay.
So, are you clear? Is it better for you?
Yeah, but again, I think as long as it's an advisory committee of residents and a board member or two, I don't see why we can't have multiple ones, because I think that the citizens need input on, to
Okay.
bring back
Okay.
to the Joint Security Committee. So I just don't want to limit it to just what they're working on.
Okay. All right.
That's really I wanted it to be clear from their point of view what their tasks were going to be, and then make it clear that we need more than that. We
Okay.
need to limit it to that.
So we still need to vote Joanne onto this group. Looking for a motion?
All right, I'll make a motion to appoint Joanne Brandt to the Resident Advisory Group.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and
You
a
know
second.
that's gonna be called RAG, right?
Acronym.
I want to bring a motion next board meeting to change the
Change the
name.
name. All right.
A better acronym?
Fair enough. Okay, I think there was a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of putting Joanne on that advisory group, say aye.
Aye.
Right, opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to Maintenance Committee.
Maintenance Committee did not meet last night. However, I'll bet Rod's got something to say. I'm good. Really? You already answered questions if you have one.
Okay, Recreation Committee.
The Recreation Committee did not meet, however, I just want to express my sincere gratitude to the people who have worked with me hard on Casino Night to get that up and running and get everything out there, as well as the people that worked on the holiday light contest and whoever helped facilitate the letters that were delivered from Santa himself to the office to get those to the kids in the community. I appreciate everybody's efforts the past month. I know it's a lot.
Okay. Board member comments. Item 10. Joanne?
Oh, no, I don't
Oh.
have any.
Okay.
I'm good.
Are there any board member comments coming down the sheets? Seeing none? Would you like one?
My pickleball idea? Should I bring that up now or hold off?
Oh, that's entirely up to you.
I was by the firehouse the other day, taking care of some candy for Kiwanis. And I know pickleball has been an issue with a concern for some, more than a couple residents in the community. And I noticed that they had a portable, and this is all news to the board because I didn't share it, and exactly we got tied up with contracts and that. So I noticed how they had a portable pickleball stand in there and a net. So I asked the firemen, how's it work? Do you like it? They love it. After that, I reached out for Alex. I said, hey, can I do a little investigation and do some follow-up? He says, go ahead. We went over to the Stonehouse Park. There was 4 young women playing pickleball. So I politely interrupted their game, and I asked them, you know, this is what I saw at the firehouse, and what would you think if we got a portable pickleball net and stand and placed it over here so on Saturdays when you have, you know, say 25, 30 people playing, that you could have 3 courts at the same time. And the 4 young ladies said, we love the idea. In fact, they said that's what the country club does right now, because they have the tennis courts and then they bring out the pickleball nets and they use them temporarily and then they take them away. And I got back to Alex to let him know that. Cost-wise, anywhere from $237 to $329, and that's just a quick glance on Amazon for that type of system. And the only comment they had is, well, actually they had 2. One is, well, we'll have to take tape and mark down the court every day, or, you know, each Saturday. And I said, well, you know, what if we painted the, you know, the basketball area or wherever the court was going to be in position? And they said, well, that would be helpful. And then their other concern was, and I had a suggestion for them, and they agreed with it, is that what if the ball kind of goes one way or the other? I said, well, you've got always people standing around, 4 people, 4 corners, and they can be the ball chasers. And I said, and this is just an idea, and I've shared it with, I was bouncing it off Alex just so he knew what was going on. It's just news to everyone. I'm sorry on that. But I was just thinking RMA could purchase this system, and of course it would have to go through approval process, go into the Recreation Committee, and they would have to do all the final research. This is just a raw idea. And if we did approve it, then it could be on a checkout basis where the pickleball club, and they are officially a club now, they could check it out on a Friday, return it on a Monday, and they would take responsibility for it. So I was thinking for a temporary fix, it would resolve the issue of cost. I mean, new courts, I think it was what, $25,000, $30,000 if we added an additional court over by the dog park. So we're not,
It was just 10.
oh, 50?
Oh.
Holy moly.
There, oh, okay.
And it was cheaper if we took away some of that basketball court, right? It was, okay. But then I was concerned about the public outcry about taking away some basketball, space. Land is, it's a commodity there's a big price on it.
Well, I mean, if they've got a club now, I mean, for $10 a member, they could purchase the net, and that way they could be responsible for taking it up and putting it down, because if they own it, they're going to be more possessive about making sure it's put up and taken down.
Yep.
And the other concern I would have is about how they position the net, because you've got the basketball post, that's a hazard, and so they almost need to play the opposite direction away from the post.
They'd have to be closest to the current courts that are in position.
Yeah, but that'd have to be perpendicular to the existing courts, otherwise you're going to be somebody's going to run into that post and
Right.
have a headache. Yeah.
What's the cost for just painting the court?
$500-600 in paint.
That way they wouldn't know which way to go.
So, I mean, if the board directs us to paint and then they provided their own portable nets and took them up and put them down.
That's even, I just wanted to throw something out because I wanted to try to accommodate a growing club over there, and they're residents, so what can we do to make them happy?
Okay. Very good. Thanks for your homework.
So I suggest that we possibly ask Greg to, when the first year of study this problem, bring us back some kind of recommendation of some sort. That work?
Why don't we throw it in the recreation committee? Is that okay?
I mean, yeah, that's fine. We're talking about just doing the portable net approach. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, striping the courts would be something different.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Board member comments are closed. Okay, so that brings us to item 11. The Board of Directors meeting, the next one is going to be January the 15th, 2019, right here at 6:30. That will adjourn this regular board meeting, and as you probably know, we are going to transition back to the organizational meeting here in just a second. So we are adjourned for our regular board meeting, and we're going to take just a couple of minutes break to stretch our legs and come back for our organizational meeting in 2 or 3 minutes.